Looks good.
Cool. All right. Hey, I'm TQ.
I am JQ.
I'm Mama Q.
Yeah.
We
And
are
here
the
we
Q
are.
family.
Tea time at the Apothecary, coming to you live, drinking some tea on a Monday morning or Monday midday. Um, yeah, so what are we drinking?
We are drinking. What are we drinking, Mama?
Goldenrod tea.
Goldenrod. I was
Goldenrod
looking
tea.
this up earlier and I have a beautiful picture of like a hillside covered in green stocky plants with yellow little flowers on the top, and it's gorgeous.
Wow, wow. And
So
I'm drinking out of a china cup today.
you're fancy.
Well, yeah,
Um,
but there's
um,
something about drinking tea from a china cup because the rim is very thin and it's just, I don't know, it makes me taste the tea more, you know,
yeah,
and it's just fun.
it is fun. So Jay, what are you doing? Tell us about
Here's
Goldenrod.
Goldenrod. It's that one in the middle in the bottom. You see it?
Oh,
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and we'll link this up afterwards to tell you where to get some. So talk about what Goldenrod is good for.
Well, I wanted to read you something from Maria Traben's book.
So this is from the book by Maria Traben. We'll link it up, called Health Through God's Pharmacy. It's an old classic, originally written in German, but translated into languages around the world. I think we sell like 15 or 20 some languages of this book. And she was like a true home herbalist, right? She was like the folklore herbal tradition, and this book is sort of like the classic of that tradition.
Right.
So, what are you going to read, Jay?
Mom, I mean, I was telling T, like, I met her, and when she came to our house, and I mean, I can imagine I was probably like, can I go now and play with my friends? But what was she like?
She was just a very sweet, kind of quiet old lady wearing her Tyrolean kind of dirndl, you know.
Yeah, like it's Austrian, southern Germany, Austrian. Tyrol is in Austria, right? Like
Right,
the old-fashioned embroidered little uh,
right. With a
sweater and
right, and with a little pretty apron over it. With a little pretty apron over it, you know. Um, and and actually, she came with uh, Dr. Peter and Barbara Thies. They came over for brunch
yeah,
on a Sunday. And afterwards, we went for a walk. I think Jeffrey's talked about it before, and she pointed out different things that a lot of us consider weeds, but um, they have healing properties.
She says that throughout the book. She's like, it's such a shame that people are just like hacking this down or spraying it with stuff to kill it when
Yeah.
we could be pulling this and making tinctures and teas for so many of the ailments that we are walking around and have trouble with the same people. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So, goldenrod is also called Aaron's rod, and then the Latin name is solidago. It's she says it is for intestinal disorders, disorders of the kidneys, kidney and bladder complaints, right? Kidney, renal failure, blah blah blah. But then this is the most important thing that I thought was kind of interesting, especially to talk to mom about, is are all she says, I quote, all our emotions are worked off through the kidneys. Therefore, they are most affected after an emotional shock, be it a death in the family or any other accident. Goldenrod proves its worth as a medicinal plant which influences human emotions most favorably. It should therefore it should therefore be drunk without delay in cases of disappointments and emotional stress. And then she says, we
Mm-hmm.
feel the soothing effect of this plant almost like a calming and caressing hand in severe emotional stress. Even the sight of goldenrod in nature has a quieting effect on us. We should be thankful that there grows a plant around us which can bring such comfort.
Which is,
Wow.
I don't want to change to a different subject, but that is how Dr. Bach found his healing system of the flower remedies. He could see what balance it would bring just by actually looking at the flowers, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I have to say, that's why I mentioned I'm looking at this picture of a hillside covered in goldenrod. And it was like instantly, I looked at it and thought, that looks so peaceful. So whether, I felt it before you said that, but it's nice to hear about that.
Yeah.
I have
And I
like,
feel like,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I think there's a fair amount of emotional upset right now, right? Emotional stress, as they say. And I've been thinking a lot about people who have disappointment right now, right?
Right.
And I think almost any, if you're locked up, keeping yourself in your house, not locked up, but you know what I mean, on lockdown, self-enforced for a long time, there's a lot of disappointments for everybody, for the average person.
Yeah.
But then, I have like a friend whose daughter's graduating from high school and has no prom, no graduation, no anything. People graduating from college without summer internships and jobs and graduation,
Like
or saying goodbye to their friends.
Birthdays.
Birthdays,
It's like
actual births.
it seems
Births.
yeah, births. I mean,
seeing your new grandchildren, your new cousins, your new, you name it, your
And
friends,
not
your
being
neighbors.
able to touch them, hold them.
Yeah.
And
Our cousin,
I mean, I would even
his
say
his dad died yesterday, not being able to like go and deal with that.
have closure, right? And then not to like make light of that, but even down to like I was gonna go to a concert this week, like all those things because it's cumulative, and you start to go, and this really, at least I could have gone to this concert and felt better and seen some music or something. You know what I mean? It's like it just rolls, it snowballs, and you just feel like, can I get a break here?
Yeah. I want to give a quick shout out to John and Kathy. Dornbo says hi to Rita. I haven't seen her in a while, but hi guys.
But
John, thanks for checking in.
I wanted to say, like, the reason I thought of bringing this to you guys is because the other day I had two major screw ups in the same day. I was supposed to finish clicking a thing for our kids album for Q Brothers Kids album that's coming out, and I never finished it. And we had been planning this launch of all these events and things, and I was like, I screwed. It's a confusing thing. There's a lot of things to press, but I screwed up. And then we're working on a new product, and I was ordering some new labels, and the same day, and I flip flopped some ingredients and screwed up the label, and I just two things in one day. And there was systems in place that should have all checked it, but I was very disappointed in myself on both accounts. And I drank some of this, and I thought, you know what, let's talk about this for a second, because I'm starting to feel like I can shed it a little and let go. And I know part of that is just saying it, acknowledgement, naming things is helpful for moving on,
And the effect of time always helps, right?
Yeah, but I wanted to just, I don't know, Mom, tell me I'm still pretty good.
Yeah, I would say the effect of mom is pretty good there. As we approach Mother's Day, it's worth remembering that talking to your mom can often, or a mom, or talking to anyone, but especially, in my case, especially my mom, can be a great way to sort of put a salve on the wounds of disappointment, right?
Oh, absolutely. We all make mistakes. Things are disappointing. Sometimes we're disappointed in ourselves, sometimes in other people, sometimes in situations,
I think people think think it's a failure to acknowledge their disappointment sometimes, and so I think it's hard sometimes to admit you're disappointed, but that's actually the fastest way, I think, to move on from it.
It is. You have to own your feelings, whether it's disappointment or anything else. You have to reflect on it, accept it, and then let it go.
Oh, that's the practice of mindfulness, right? When people say I can't meditate, I understand because it's not easy, but I think that there's a misconception that you're supposed to clear your mind instead of pay attention to what's arising.
Just observe, right?
And so sometimes you observe and you're like, oh, I'm so mad about this, or I'm so irritated, or I'm so scared, or I'm so whatever. Malia Moskov says hello too. Hey. But I think that to me, part of mindfulness is just, and I have a really hard time with it. I tend to get caught up in it, but just being like, oh yeah, this crappy feeling that I'm feeling right now, I almost need to revel in it for a little while and be like, this is what this feels like. This is the feeling of disappointment or the feeling of anxiety. And I'm deep in it right now. You know what I mean?
Right. Because if you don't, you won't get rid of it.
We're just,
Yeah.
I mean, aren't we globally in like a very deep, disappointing moment, right?
For sure.
And anxious moment,
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I think
that's what's interesting, and like I don't know I don't know the science or even the folk herbalism behind kidneys and stress and emotional stress and disappointment, but I find it super interesting. You
well,
know,
well,
I would think some of it is, I mean, you're flushing. You need to flush your body, and all that goes through the kidneys.
well, when she said that, when you read that quote, I immediately thought of the crossover that's like a crossover moment where Western, sort of largely European herbal tradition starts to sound like Ayurveda and Chinese medicine. Do you know what I mean? When she says something like that, I feel like you get many more herbal books and knowledge coming out of those traditions that come out of the Eastern traditions, that talk about these processing emotions through physical body or systems being involved in emotion processing. And I'm not an expert on that. And I don't think any of us are people who are saying like, it definitely works this way. But I'll say that drinking this tea feels nice. Talking to you guys feels nice. It's good.
Fun. Yeah, it's a little bit of fun. So what do you think the tea tastes like?
It's very mild and kind of like like hay and there's a little floral,
it's
but
like
I
a
would say it's
sweet,
very kind of grassy.
but
Grassy.
it's
little
not
bit
as it's not as like wet and earthy as like a chamomile though. It's a little
No.
it's a little bit of a brighter, higher flavor.
I almost felt like dry hay or something like that. It's like kind of that
Light.
straw.
Yeah, it's very light. You know what else they use goldenrod for though is
Sinuses,
yeah, upper respiratory,
allergies, and
either
sinuses.
chronic or acute.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading about that too, which is right now is a good time to sort of have that on hand with a lot of people I'm looking at buds like exploding with pollen, literally 7 feet from my face out the window here right now. And I can feel it. Even my dog is getting allergies right now. He keeps on going like all the time. It's like I can hear the little drip. So yeah.
Maybe
So
you
I'll
should get rid of
Dexter some goldenrod water.
You should get rid of your kids. I think your dog is allergic to them.
Yeah, exactly. That would definitely be the order. Yeah. I want to talk about something else because when you said we were going to talk about disappointment, this is not an area where I'm an expert, but I feel like I listen to podcasts and I know a lot of people are into Stoicism and the Stoic philosophers and the idea. They were talking about how you can get so caught up in like, oh my God, the world, this is so bad or whatever, or just forget how many good things you have. And one of the ways of dealing with that is, you're kind of like the route, and you can do them both. One would be a more traditional route of saying like, let me bring to mind every morning or every day or multiple times a day, things that I'm grateful for and experience that. And I try to do that. I'm not as good at it as I should be, but it's good. The other way is almost the reverse of that. So I was listening to this woman today who's a happiness researcher, and she was saying she does these group lectures. She's a Yale professor. she's a happiness researcher, and she does these group lectures where she says, like, for businesses or whatever, and she'll say, like, think about someone close to you, like your kid or your partner or someone you love very much. And now imagine the last time you saw them was the last time you're ever going to see them. You're never going to see them again. That was your last time. And now feel that. And like, as a parent, I can say, I can cry. I can make myself cry right now just saying that out loud.
Yeah.
But if you can envision that and follow that through for 2 minutes, the brain is built in a way that, like, you release these flood of emotions and chemicals and all of these things that you start to feel it, and you get the tiniest taste of what that would really be like. And the result of that is
Deep
you
appreciation.
cannot help but the next time you see that person, view it as a gift of the universe that you get to spend time with them.
Wow.
Where you get this. And I was thinking about that today, because I think that, like, sometimes for me, I'm a pretty focused person, and I feel like, yeah, I'm grateful for this. And I know I am. Like, I'm good at sort of balancing in the intellect sense, the fact that, like, I have so much to be grateful for. But to do it and feel it and hear is something that I don't let in very often. But it's pretty hard to deny it when I imagine everything, all those valuable things taken away, to be like, oh yeah, maybe I shouldn't nag Rachel about, like, some stupid thing that mattered to me but didn't matter, because
Yeah.
everything can disappear, you know?
Right. That's right. And yeah. Wow. That's really powerful.
Weird that you say that. I sort of do that all the time. I'm serious. Like, that's something I didn't know it had a name where people did it, but I always kind of felt bad about it. The fact that, like, that was something that I went through. I'm like, why am I obsessing over this?
Yeah.
You know, but you're right. It does lead to an extreme appreciation, and I like
Yeah.
I think maybe I was onto something,
Yeah.
just naturally I was like feeling like a natural sense of how to follow that. Some people are mindful, like mom is incredibly mindful person. Like meditation, I have to train myself to learn to be more like she is. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
maybe on that tip, like I had a little something that I already knew.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. Well, you're tapped into something that they were saying. Stoicism. This goes back to the early 3rd century BC. Is the founding of it. Uh, Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius are sort of like 3 famous names. And Zeno of Citium is the founder of Stoicism. But that's sort of like one of the
I have been
tenets of it.
I have been called stoic before
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting to
by
think
my
about. And
wife.
when I heard we were talking about this, I felt like, what a nice way to kind of counteract some of that. It's not disappointment in general, but it's like sort of a way to bring to life how grateful you can be about so many other things, while you're maybe disappointed about the album, or, you
Right,
know,
right.
disappointed that you don't get to do something with your kids, or disappointed at the bad
Anything.
turn in
Yeah.
business that something took. You know what I mean? So, or in my my kids in my case, disappointed that they didn't get to visit their grandparents in Palm Springs while they're chilling there this winter, which, you know, is not a tragedy in the larger scheme of the universe, but we're all pretty bummed about, you know. So
Well, it's pretty disappointing for Dad and I too.
Yeah.
You know, we love
um,
when you guys come and we're all together and laughing and
yeah,
eating together and
Ma-
talking.
Mom, how are you? I feel like Nani, like your mom and you are just like human goldenrod. Like, how do you do it?
Please.
No, no, I'm serious. Like, I'm not like trying to like I don't want to make you uncomfortable, there is like it seems you have a relentless positivity that is, how can we all tap into it a little bit?
You know, I'm not absolutely sure, but I don't know. Faith, hope, Love.
I have an answer. I already thought about this about mom this morning. And it was on the same thing that I was listening to because I believe this. And I'm not as good at this as I want to be, but I try, which is when you focus on giving to others and serving others, you actually become more positive and more happy, even when it seems that that would be a pain in the butt and not what would make you feel better. They were talking about in neuroscience, the paradox of what your instinct is to make yourself feel better is often actually not really lasting good feelings. It doesn't bring lasting good feelings. But what seems like it would be more painful and more work will be the actual path to happiness. And I think that mom is always someone who just lays down whatever she's doing to help other people. And that actually makes you feel better, even when it's inconvenient and you don't have time to do it.
Well,
That's my take on it.
thank you. Thank you. I guess when I think about it, I try. Yeah.
Yeah. We could put mom on a pedestal all day and it would never be high enough in my mind. But I want to say there's someone said about chemicals, pesticides get flushed through the kidneys. And I suspect when kidneys are overworked, they may store toxins in visceral fat to flush later on. Certainly possible. I think that there's, from everything I know, we don't really have a true understanding of all the things that are probably going on in the modern world around the stresses we put on our body, of which those might be some. Eating the wrong things might be some. Emotional stresses could, emotions are essentially chemicals too. So you can have a load of those come through. So I think that seems like it's not I don't know that I'm not certainly qualified to say that that's the case or not the case, but it certainly seems to me to be a contributing factor. And then they said Cushing syndrome. So physical stresses on the organs causing emotional stress. Yeah,
I mean,
think
that's
that
interesting. It's like a chicken egg situation, right? Like,
yeah, I
I
think,
I've always been fascinated by the connection between physical and emotional stress, and you know, I as someone who's trying to figure that out and navigate that right now for myself with my skin, I'm like, it's so interesting to be like really in tune with and paying attention to my skin and how it's flaring up. I have psoriasis and my own stress level. And then if it flares up, my stress flare like so which one is causing which, and then they snowball in a really dangerous, not dangerous, but like can be dangerous way. And and so it's important in whichever way you can. It's important to attack both sides when you're looking or resolve both sides when you're looking for solutions, but it's important to break in wherever makes sense to you or wherever feels right, because it is a cycle, and any stop you can put in it will stop the whole cycle. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And I was going to say, one thing, I think you're right. And I'm not disagreeing with what you said, but I think it's just, I want to point out, in my mind, the idea that they're sides and that you can isolate them is sort of a fallacy to begin with. So the idea of well, could it be physical chemicals that are causing this emotion? It's like, there is no separation. You can't have emotions without a body, and you can't have a human body without emotions. One that's conscious at least.
Yeah.
So I don't know about unconscious states or someone who's on a rest, like being kept alive by machines, but to be human
No,
and to
you're
be
right.
normally human, you don't have one without the other. So to me, the idea of always splitting it up and being like, well, is there a physical reason for this? I'm like, they're the same. They're the same, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted, Therese, hi. Good to see you again. John suggested that we make a subscription box for teas. Yeah, we're working on something. I don't think that'll be immediate, but in the meantime, we'll link everything here so that you can find them. But I think that's a great idea, John. Sarah said she placed her first order today. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
That's really nice. We appreciate it. Keeping small businesses going. We very much appreciated by our whole staff. And then Therese talked about deep loss, teaching her to appreciate the people in her life more.
Yeah.
Yes, I happen to know those people.
That's
and
right.
the loss. So, yeah, thanks for sharing
Some of
that,
my
Joyce.
favorite people.
And
Yeah,
Ramsey was a big loss for
Yeah.
all of us, huh?
yeah. And Pops chimed in, my dad chimed in that he can vouch about the emotions and the physical being completely enmeshed and inseparable. So,
It's like a lot of people talk about is this like you were saying, is this a physical thing or a mental thing? As if they're two completely separate things. And all the recent studies are showing you have more pathways going from your gut to your brain than your brain to your gut.
yeah,
So the idea that a physical ailment could cause stress or that stress could cause a physical ailment is so obvious with that discovery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah, it's so much so that they started calling like your gut your other brain, right?
Yeah,
It's
well, I
like
mean,
essentially
Dad says I
you
feel it in my gut, and he's like, I'm not saying that figuratively. I literally just
yeah, yeah,
know this thing, It's not a conscious, I'm thinking about it and figuring it out. It's something you just know, right?
yeah. And when you start thinking about it that way, that your gut is home to countless microorganisms, all of whom have a biological imperative to survive and thrive, you start to realize you are kind of a conduit for a lot of other intentions, right? So, it's like when I think of that, it's another one of those things like I talked about the other day of the human being a donut that just like sort of trips my head out and makes me laugh. I also think of like, I am a conduit for the intentions of billions and trillions of other organisms that are call me home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's really funny. And so then you're like, all right, yeah, I'm disappointed. Well, am I disappointed? Did I not feed the certain organisms that are releasing chemicals that are making me feel nervous or sad or whatever? I don't know. And I'm going down a rabbit hole here and doing it partly for humor. But the point is, like, who the hell knows? And I don't think we're going to figure it out anytime soon. Certainly not during this cup of tea, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, there isn't that much left.
Yeah.
I made a whole picture, so I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good. All right, well, we'll pick that up tomorrow, huh, Jay?
yeah. I don't know. The idea that I love the idea that just a simple cup of tea can can help so many things at once. Like that to me is such a beautiful idea, you know?
Yeah,
You know what I mean,
Well,
Mom?
even making the tea, right? I mean, what customs there are in, the tea ceremonies in the East and, well, in a lot of
You
places.
mean like the
We
ritual
have
of
our
it in itself?
yeah, but I mean, even us making a cup of tea is a ritual and a ceremony, if you think about it.
yeah. You can't make water boil faster, in any significant way.
It's
Kind of
true.
reminds me of my cousin Vinny,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Are you telling
are
me
you telling
that
me
the
that
laws of nature cease to exist in your kitchen?
I don't know why he's Jewish in your vision, but that's amazing.
Either way. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah.
grits boiling
Does a
faster, but you can't. So the point of boiling water and just waiting for a cup of tea to steep is like a time out of time.
yeah,
You just
I
Teresa's
have to
like to
wait for it.
watch the color come out
Yeah.
of the,
so Teresa says, do you feel like ritual can help with mindfulness? I think that's what we're getting at essentially is
oh,
that like that ritual is a little mindful moment that is like a pause before you do anything. And in my practice of meditation, they're always like, before you stand up, before you enter a room, it's like make these conscious moments so that it's like a pause before and then continue with your day. And making a cup of tea is literally that. Like it's
Yeah.
just a pause and then you go, right?
Yeah. These in between moments, you could do it so mindlessly because you don't have thoughts. Your thoughts have you oftentimes in those times. And so the idea of just saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna walk and go to the bathroom and like notice the things that are going on, or I'm gonna go downstairs and get the paper at the front door on a Sunday, and like making those moments mindful rather than, oh, I wonder if it arrived yet, and I got to do this today, and I'm going to get to the grocery store, and I got to do that, and
And
I'm freaking out about that.
the other thing today, and I'm not completely innocent of it, but because of cell phones, people do two things at once. You know, they walk the dog and talk on the cell phone. They, what, everything you're doing while I'm talking to someone, I'm doing another activity.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
to get done. I don't think that's particularly good for people, though sometimes necessary.
Yeah. The final thing that I was going to say, you just reminded me of that, is that I think that, you know, I'm not here to weigh in on screen time and your eyes and all the, does it ruin our attention? It's more just that, in the same thing that I was listening to, she was talking about your phone has a million ways to remind you to check it unless you turn off all the notifications. So you can be having a conversation that's really meaningful and your phone goes, did you check your email? Did you check your email? Hey, there's a new email. Hey, there's a new text message. There's a new whatever. But when you're looking at your phone and your Instagram feed or your emails, generally the important people in your life don't have a way to ding you and say, hey, there's an important person who's waiting to talk.
Oh,
hey, yeah, I'm here.
three-year-olds do.
3-year-old do. You have it. But in general, so we should be like shutting down those notifications completely.
Greta,
And then make it
Greta
mindful.
turned
When
them.
you want to check your phone, you check your phone. But then when you're talking to people, don't be distracted by a data scientist somewhere who decided to make something that is almost impossible for your attention-seeking brain to ignore.
Greta turned hers off. Mom doesn't care. Mom barely looks at her phone. I don't even
I don't
call.
have it
I called dad. I called dad to get a hold of mom. But Greta turned hers off, and like, I mean, it's like a world of difference. Like, you know, and I'm worse about it. I used to criticize her for it. Now I'm definitely worse about it, because my work is not as separate, and so like I don't have as many off times. Although I did put my phone, I put a outlet in my closet, and I have my charger in there, and I put my phone in my closet. It's not next to my bed. So the first thing I do is I wake up, I breathe, I stretch, I make my bed, and then as I'm getting dressed, I grab my phone and come downstairs. You know?
I need to be better about that.
I leave
And also,
my phone, at night, I leave my phone on a different floor.
yeah, it's good. Yeah.
So
Well,
if there's
I can't even get a hold of it when it's on your person. I can't even get a hold of you half the time. So,
when it
it's
is,
okay.
it's deep in my purse and I don't hear it anyway.
That's true. That's true too.
So the thing that they were saying in happiness, the final thing I'll say is that, and this is important when we're all separate, and why this is such a joy to me of getting and looking at your faces, is that they're saying whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, it doesn't matter. Part of the other problem with cell phones is that they make all the times when you interact with strangers, you don't have to interact with them. And it's also proven at this point that the more small interactions and communications you have with people that you bump into all the time, generally the happier you are. So like if it's the barista at your coffee shop, it's the person at the L stop when you get on the train, it's the person sitting next to you at the train laughing at something when you both see something funny. All of those things bring joy. And right now we don't have those. Don't have those moments, which makes it really hard. But it's also an encouragement to say, hey, even if you think like I got this and you'd be better off, whether it's in normal life, but right now, go get on the phone and look at someone in the face and see some of these cues of smiles or whatever, because it affects you biologically.
It does.
Absolutely.
You know, the how many people, your proximity to other people increases your empathy, because it's just seeing other people that are like and unlike you on a daily basis just makes you a more empathetic person, and and not doing that, it makes it very easy to go like those kinds of people, or dismiss an entire section of people because you're You got blinders on. You've got blinders on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, for sure. Dad is the best at striking up small conversations and comments.
He is the best at that.
But
He
mom,
is.
but mom, he's also the one that had the hardest time with the phone. You had to have a thing with him about it.
Well, he loves his phone because he's connected, you know.
But you've had a discussion with him. So if you don't want to share, you don't have to. But he now during dinner and like at certain times of the day puts it away and turns off the notifications, right?
Well, he doesn't turn off the notifications, but it's far enough away that he
That he
doesn't.
can't. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. There's someone recommended here. They wrote about when we're talking about gut, about using gymnema to get rid of candida and grapefruit seed extract,
I love
vegetable
grapefruit
charcoal, D-mannose and cranberry, and then probiotics. So
All awesome
certainly
stuff.
something to consider for gut health, especially if you have candida or other problems there.
Those are good for a spring cleanse anyway.
Yeah. And then Deb Miller said, making your bed every morning is a powerful ritual. You're not even out of your pajamas and you've already accomplished something. I'm a huge fan of
Huge
that.
fan.
I don't leave my room until I make my bed. And generally, I don't leave until I meditate and do like some stretching. And then I feel like I start the day already feeling like, whew, I accomplished some major stuff.
Another powerful thing about that is that when you come back to bed at night, it feels
So much better.
so much. Mom, you taught me that because I used to not do it, and you're like, but then at night, doesn't it just feel gross to get into a crumply bed? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Making your bed, I just don't leave the bedroom. Till
Make
it's
your
made.
bed, everybody.
Yeah. My mom said,
Mom
make your bed.
says, make your bed. Also, that's like me when I make a list. The first thing on the list is make a list. So then when I finish, I get to check the first thing off.
Yes. You're a smart boy. All right. Hey guys, you don't have to finish, but I have to finish.
No, we should be done.
Because
My tea's out. I was
I got
joking about the
business.
mug. I'm out.
Yeah. I have another sip.
All right. Hey, if you want, we'd love you to show us some love whatever platform you're on. And let's send out some Goldenrod tea to someone, to a lucky a person who's made comments or whatever. Okay.
Say
for
so
joining us.
if you write, I would not be disappointed to get some goldenrod. We might send you some. Okay.
Yeah. We'll pick a winner. Thank you. Join us tomorrow. Tea time at the Apothecary. Mom, great
Mom,
to see you.
love
Thanks
you.
for joining us.
We'll
Be
see you.
safe.
We'll see you next week. We're gonna do Mondays with Mama Q. Hopefully every week. Okay.
And we'll see the rest of you tomorrow, hopefully. All right. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Much love.
Peace out.
Peace.